And we spent these last 5 or 6 weeks on this topic trying to let you know that sex is good in marriage and it's okay because God created that way. So now we get to number 3, and this is called the blessed few. To reach the promised land of the blessed few, it is going to require that you must be more than present, not just during sex, but also during life. It's easy for a guy to be present during the intimacy, right? Of course he's going to be there, right? But it's harder for him to be there in life. And in a marriage, a wife needs a husband who is going to be there with everything more than just sex. And what happens is we as adults in a marriage, we must grow up and be able to be there for life, and so must our spouse. Because anyone beyond the age of puberty is capable of having sex, okay? Of course. But it's not the way that God made it happen. And it doesn't mean that you're ready to handle the components surrounding sex. A lot of young people, we go out and we start having these relationships, these somewhat what we call intimate relationships, but we're not ready for the components that surround it, right? Because culture doesn't tell us that side. Culture says, you know what, do whatever makes you feel good, do whatever makes you have fun, and it'll be all good. But what happens is there's that connection, and there's components that are wrapped around it that we, as mature adults, need to be ready for. And because the truth is, most people aren't ready for all these components. Sex is so much more than an act. It's more than just something you do. Sex is an actual language. I'm going to describe that. When you begin to look at your sexual language, you will discover it is in line with how you live your life. It will uncover all the areas of your life that are possibly insecure, scared, anxious, or even ashamed. And what happens is if you want to be in the blessed few category, you need to be more than present for your spouse. You can't just show up at game time, right? You got to go through the prep. You got to work at it. You got to be there connected to your spouse on all of those 4 levels. Going back to Genesis chapter 2, 23 to 24. Then the man said, "This at last is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman because she was taken out of man." But here's the kicker, verse 24. "Therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh." Verse 23 establishes the unique qualities of a woman. Let's talk about that. She was taken from man, and she now has equal status with him, both intellectually and spiritually. Now, fellas, listen up. Husbands, future wannabe husbands, listen up. If this is the way God intended it to be, that you're on equal levels intellectually and spiritually, if you think you're going to have a romantic, intimate connection with your wife, and you think you're smarter than she is, I guarantee you, she is not going to be there for you. If you think you're smarter than her, you're more spiritual than her, and because you have a higher education than she does, I guarantee you she wants to be stimulated intellectually more than just physically. So if you think your marriage is going to last based on physical without the intellectual component, you're probably going to have a rocky sex life. All right? And a man obviously refers to in this passage as a mature and responsible male. Husbands, wives want a mature and responsible male. I guarantee you, if you can be that mature person in that relationship, if you can be that responsible person in the relationship, intimacy is going to be a heck of a lot easier.